The Republican Zone is brought to you by Drew Murray, a modern view from the Republican lens, covering local and national news, understanding that one size doesn't fit all when it comes to politics. The Republican Zone airs Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. and Saturday from 3 to 4 p.m.
Good afternoon. You're listening to USLA Radio. My name is Drew Murray, and I am the host of the Republican Zone. I'm here with a number of my friends today. You can see we have a packed house. So I'm going to welcome everyone. I'm going to say everyone's name. I'm going to read it, so I don't want to make sure I don't forget anyone. So we have Melvin Prince, and let me make sure I pronounce it correctly. Is it Jonigan?
Correct.
Jonigan, there you go, AK, but we're going to make it easy, Dr. Prince, right? We're going to call it, we're AK Dr. Prince. We have Sheila E. Armstrong, the leader of the Republican 14th Ward.
Yes.
We have Carnell Harley, the leader of the Republican 13th Ward, and I believe, are you still Sergeant in Arms for the Republican City Committee? Anybody, if you look at Carnell, he's about 6'4", and he looks like he could play DN for the Philadelphia Eagles, so that's why he is the Sergeant in Arms. Ogard, oh, you're an Ogard? Oh, I'm sorry. He's Carnell's like, I'm a lot bigger than a DN. So, and then last but not least, my friend Leonard Shotwell, the Republican Ward Leader of the 11th Ward. So, thank you guys all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. And so you guys are all part of the North Philly GOP, correct?
Yes.
All right. So nice. And so I just met Dr. Prince today. I know Leonard and Carnell from when I ran. I'm also a ward leader. I'm the leader of the 15th Ward. Sheila and I actually did meet when she was getting signatures when she was running against council president. We were both sitting right before you were putting in your signatures. We were sitting there exhausted.
Yes, we was.
Just like, oh my God, nervous because we're like, do we have the correct signatures? So that was the first time I met Sheila, and then Sheila has since converted to. So I'm normally the newest Republican in the room because I became Republican in November of 2018. Sheila is a very, very new Republican.
I'm the very new Republican.
Well, welcome. So yeah, you're not the baby. I am not the baby anymore.
No.
So and so this North Philly GOP
Yes.
is brand new. Why don't you guys talk a little bit about the North Philly GOP?
Well, let me start. It's been around for about a year or two.
Okay.
But it never came in fruition until I seen Sheila. Me and Leonard been around a while, but it hit me that we as black people need to really start being involved in the political party in North Philly, and being the president. So once I seen Sheila and seen her drive, I'm like, this is our chairperson. This is the person that's going to lead the North Philly GOP where we need to go.
Nice. And you know what? We had a Martina White is the new head of the RCC, the Republican City Committee, and we actually had we had a meeting last week. You guys were, most of us were there, and they asked kind of like, what do you see what is the perception of people? What do they think of the Republican Party, both nationally and locally? And I said right off the bat, I said, this is what people think of us. I said, they think we're racist. Mm-hmm. And I think, and I even have a friend who, he doesn't think I'm racist because I'm his friend, obviously, but I have a friend who said, and we'll go into Donald Trump later, but it was like, Donald Trump is a racist. I said, I don't believe he's a racist. He might be a narcissist, might be a little abrasive, but I don't believe he's a racist. And I said to him, I have a lot of friends who are African Americans who are Republicans in the city. It's like he didn't believe me. He's like, no way. So I think a lot of people are surprised that there is a North Philly GOP, we'll call it the coalition, that has a number of ward leaders who are African American. I think they're very surprised.
Yes, they are very surprised to find out that there are African Americans that are Republicans. Okay, which at times angers me because if you know the history of our country, you will understand that the Republican Party was started by African Americans and white people working together to form an organization to combat slavery.
Absolutely.
So with that, knowing our history, for me personally, it made sense for me to come back to the Republican Party as an African American woman, learning my history, understanding why is it that as a Democrat, when I was a Democrat for 15 years, working under different state legislators and city legislators, why did they not really want to change and make things better for our community? Why is it when I asked our hard questions I was told pretty much, look, you don't understand, little young girl, go sit down in that corner, just be quiet and watch. You know what I mean? And being taught as a child to respect your elders, because these is my elders, and I sat
Sure.
back and watched. Okay, so one thing that I feel is a part of our mission within the North Philly GOP is just to make a presence for us. Okay, to show that yes, we are African American Republicans. We are here. We are not going anywhere. And then come have a conversation with us. Okay, because you'll be surprised what our values stand for is what everybody values stand for: family, economics, good communities, safe communities, good homes, housing. I'm a public housing resident, and we definitely going to talk about that with housing and the local issues here. But I don't want to take a lot
Sure.
of
No. I have a feeling, sometimes when you have guests on the show, you wonder, are people going to be able to talk? I know.
That's what I'm like.
I'm actually somewhat shy, quiet spoken. I know Carnell, but I don't think Sheila is. I think we. I don't know, gentlemen. I think we could all just sit here and we could take.
I
just
am
let
an
Sheila go.
opinionated woman. I'm an
Yes.
intelligent woman that's opinionated, and I don't have a problem sharing my thoughts if you ask
Sure.
me.
Now you said you were a Democrat for 15 years. Were you?
Yes.
Is that when you registered when you were 18, or were you a Republican?
I
Were you a
was-
Republican before, or this is the first time you were a
So
Republican?
this is my first time
Okay.
being a Republican. Okay, fully as first time being a Republican. As I said, I worked for the Democrats for 15 years, but I've been voting since I was 18 because in our family we are taught the history that people died for us to have the right to vote. So with that being said, my mom always made sure we voted regardless of who we knew what we was voting for, and we didn't even know anything. I say I didn't become aware about politics until I got thrust
Sure.
in it.
And I think a lot. What I always tell people, the main difference between, in my opinion, between Democrats and Republicans, we all want the same things. We want safer neighborhoods, and and I'm going to talk at a local level, but safer neighborhoods, and we want better education for our children. So that's what that in a nutshell. At least when I was walking around talking to people during the campaign, that's what I heard. And it's just the difference between Democrats and Republicans. It's really how we get there, not necessarily the goals. So that's what I always thought. So, what are you guys' thoughts on that? Agree, disagree?
Well,
I know Dr. Prince is getting ready to.
I just see it. In order to balance out the gentrification, you need African American Republicans because the Democrats have pretty much sold you down the river. There should be no reason why the parts of North Philly, the parts of 33rd and Girard are renamed, and there's a new entity in that space without the total involvement of the people that were there prior to. So you can't give tax abatement 10 years and then raise a person's property taxes. And so since the Democrats hadn't helped the Democrats in that community, it takes the Republican to come in and say, hey, here's the balance. This is what you can't do. This is what we will not allow you to do. And so we just don't have to group up as we're doing now. We then have to begin to take some seats. And we have to revamp this party, which allows us to have a bigger process in this party so we do not lose a seat in city council like we just had lost.
Absolutely.
We need to regain that seat, and we need to take a piece off the board, as we would say.
As
When you
we
play
said,
checkers,
we played-
it's not
right.
relevant, but when you play chess, if you take a major piece off the board, it's relevant.
Yeah.
And so that piece has to be a congressional seat.
Yes.
It has to be a Senate seat. And somehow Philadelphia has to have a person at the table that doesn't comply with or is not capitulating to the Democrats.
Exactly.
And so prior to me meeting you, Drew, there was meetings where our former leader would sit with the Democrat former leader, and they would have an understanding. But that understanding wasn't diversified. It didn't allow for you can't put somebody up if you have African Americans who've gone through school, got master's degrees, PhDs, who become judges, and you don't select them for prominent seats. You put someone who doesn't have the experience up. You can't do that.
Well, what frustrated me most about losing the seat is that we didn't lose it to an independent. We didn't lose it to another party. We lost it. Kendra Brooks is an admit. She says, "I'm a lifelong Democrat." She's still a Democrat, so I honestly don't think she should have even been allowed to win that seat because she's a Democrat. And the whole point of the charter, the whole point of the legislation, is to guarantee some level of diversity. I'd say political diversity on city council. And now, instead of having 3 seats on city council, which up until just recently was Councilman O'Neill, the 10th district, David O at large, and Al Taubenberger at large. We're in essence losing Al Taubenberger and a seat to another Democrat, which completely goes against the entire point of the legislation to keep things diverse. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why it was important that we created the United African American Republican Club.
Right.
Because we asked the same question. Can you get some of the candidates out the race? If you get 3 of these candidates out the race, whether it be Wolf or Neely or Bill or whoever, you get them out the race, we stand a chance of winning those seats.
Yeah.
But the problem is that when the Republican Party do not take in consideration an idea that comes from us as a group, then we have to formulate separate and aside because, like you just said, well, how is it you're going to win if we don't combat some of this ignorance in some of those neighborhoods? Because it would be against you. It would go against you. I mean, the tide will go against you, and we need to balance out that tide or smooth out that tide.
So were you thinking that the Republicans shouldn't have had 5 people in the general, that they should have taken
Yes.
a few
No.
back?
Wait.
So
Yes,
I
that's
s-
my-
yeah.
The
Yes.
vote that they
Yeah.
all taken, what they
It
take?
was
Something
too
like
much
29, 30,000 apiece?
Listen,
Yes.
each person got around 30,000
Correct.
plus.
Exactly.
And
Right.
so if you take
Eliminate
5,
3 of
6,
them.
if you're having 6 people run for 1 seat or 2 seats,
Yeah.
if you take out at least 3 of them, I could see one
That's what
person
we was
being involved
encouraging.
for the opportunity for change.
Mm-hmm.
But to have 3 additional people on top of that, there was too much competition in the Republican Party against its own self.
Well, I'm gonna beg to differ on that one because you get 5 votes. So
Yeah,
you
you're
get
right.
5,
So
you
they-
get 5 votes.
Right.
So those 5 votes, you just see the numbers of 5 votes. They just voting for the 5 people. That's Republican.
But the problem
For how many
within that
seats, though?
situation.
But real
Oh,
quick, the
go
thing
ahead.
is, most of them didn't come in the Afro American community. So the votes you see is the votes from the Northeast and South Philly
Yep.
and probably Roxborough.
Yep.
If they would have came into the African American community and let the African American community know they're running, you probably would seen a little uptick in their votes.
Sure.
But no, here's the difficult, and saying that statement right there, if you do not have the Republican votes inside of those various communities, it's almost, okay, am I going to spend money to get 10 votes, or am I going to spend money to get 3,000 votes? And so this is one of the reasons why you have to build the African American Republican Club, because you have to at least have an entity that gives you 1,000 votes to get on the petition.
Exactly.
Right.
If they decide not to do you in the Northeast or
Support
do you in South Philly or do you in Roxborough, then you're up against the wall because you don't have 1,000 votes 1,000 signatures anywhere to get on the ballot to challenge.
Yeah.
And with Governor Wolf now vetoing the opportunity to vote for who you would like to vote for in the primary, it's now an uphill battle.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand that point.
He's right. If
yeah.
one of them, if 2 of them would have got out the race,
Yep.
Matt Wolf,
Well-
who knows he wasn't going to win. He didn't have a snowball chance on either side, the Caucasian side or the African American side, because Matt Wolf is center city center. He's not city center. He
Yeah.
wants you to believe that, but he take your University of Penn and center city. That's all he does.
Well-
And so there's no win there. You need the diversity has to come from somebody that can travel the city, don't have a problem going
yeah.
from the Northeast to North Philly, and helping out people that are in need of help.
Yeah. No, and that's true. But I'm just looking at
And
the numbers.
if you look at the numbers, but when we look at the numbers and when we break down the numbers, one thing that I had noticed in the numbers, okay, is the fact that if somebody got out the race, they would have kept their seat. Okay, on the breakdown of the numbers, because of the fact of they did not sit there and think about whoever was strategizing their campaigns did not strategize and include the black vote.
Well, my thing is, if you look,
So
if you go
because
back
of
to
that.
2000, the last time they voted,
Mm-hmm.
it's around the same numbers. except for uptick
There's
in
no change.
it's up until it's an uptick in David O numbers.
We're going to
Everybody
take
else
a
is
we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a minute, and we'll continue this discussion on the 5 Republicans for City Council at large.
I came out in the 11th grade. Nobody was embracing you. The kids were cruel. It was very difficult to be gay. Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. And even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. I have a mentor, Maria, and she convinced me to continue my education. Just never judges. She's a true role model.
From the depths of my heart, I thank you, Maria, for being a friend and a beautiful person. No one receives a diploma alone, and I'm honored to share this moment with you. Thank you.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back. You're listening to USLA Radio. My name is Drew Murray, and I am the host of the Republican Zone. So we are back, and we're going to talk about, basically the conversation is, should the Republican Party in the past, should they, or in the future, should they endorse less than 5 candidates? And the thought process behind that is really getting behind just, 2 or 3 people. And the reason we haven't done it in the past, and I've said this has never happened before, right? So we never lost one of those 2 seats. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't think we were losing this seat this time. I thought there was a chance in the future. I thought next cycle, I thought in 2023, it was a possibility. But no one expected the Working Families Party to put in hundreds of thousands of dollars in this cycle. And I actually agree with Carnell. It would have made a difference, but not as much of a difference as you think. Because if people went in and they voted for 5 Republicans, it wouldn't have mattered if there was only 2, 3, or 4. Now, it could have mattered in the bullet votes. So if the bullet votes for Matt Wolf, for example, went to Councilman Al Tallenberger, that would have made a difference. For people who voted for 2 or 3, that could have made a difference. And whether or not it would have made the difference, and we'll talk about Al Tallenberger because he was the one who came in just behind Kendra, it probably would have. If we had 2 or 3, I would say it probably would have made a difference, but it would have been. I think it would have been tight. I don't think it's a definite. And the one thing, playing the devil's advocate, and I was in the city council race early on, so unfortunately I lost in the primary, but let's pretend I got past the primary, and let's say Mike Meehan, then head of the RCC, came to me and said, "You're dropping out." After I just spent $50,000. After I just spent $50,000, and that's the number I spent. If I spent $50,000 on an election, and Mike Meehan said, "Drew, you're dropping out," I'd have a hard time dropping out. And the second point I'll make is, how do you decide on those endorsements? And I'll give an example. If the thought is, and I do think the strategy is going to change going forward. If the thought is that you're going to endorse 2, and that endorsement process comes before the primary, if I'm sitting and I'm a Republican voter and the ward leaders and committee people pick those 2 people, then I'm going to say, you took me out of it. I'm a voter and you took me out of it. So if the Republican Party does go and say, we're only going to endorse X amount of people, whether that's 2 people, 3 people, I think it needs to happen after the primary. So you at least have some level of feedback from the voters, right? And it's not just committee people and it's not just ward people. So for example, what I would say is, and I don't think we should just do just 2, because I think then we're purely conceding we're only going to get 2. We can get 5. If we grow the party, we can get 5. Is it going to happen next cycle? Probably not. But if I were king of the world, I would say we endorse, we either don't endorse before the primary or we do endorse 5. And then after the primary, we let the voters basically decide, okay, first, second, and third, maybe with some kind of some flexibility there as far as the ward leaders and committee people having a say, because, I mean, I'll be honest with you, the way that typically works is ballot position. I picked the 6th number this year, and I came in 6th. David O picked the 5th, and he came in 5th. So there's a lot of luck involved on whether or not you get past the primary. So, but I think there needs to be some input from the voters without just saying, "No, we're picking these two." And you got to be careful not to pick the incumbents either, because then it's automatic. Then the incumbents will just win forever, right? Because you got to give challengers an opportunity. So I don't know what do you guys think about those thoughts? I know, Leonard, I know you agree with endorsing, and whether it's, do you have thought, is it 2, is it 3, is it?
No, regardless as to what the thought process is, we're talking about strategy. We're talking about strategizing. And when you think about that, even looking at the presidential race upcoming, think about this. The former vice president, who is running on a Democratic ticket, has not been endorsed prior to the primary by the president, of which he was the vice president for 8 years. To some extent, that's some form of a strategy. So I'm saying that we as a Republican Party have to be better about how we strategize about the positions and the seats that we run for. And that goes all the way to Congress, Senate,
Sure.
in both at the federal level and the state level. If one of those candidates had conceded into running into the general election and campaigned just as hard for the rest of the ticket, think about someone who got 30,000 votes that could have swayed their 30,000 votes to 1 or 2 or 3 other candidates.
Right.
Then we're talking about possibly getting 3 seats at large as opposed to losing 1 seat.
Sure.
So that's what I'm talking about when
Sure.
it comes to strategy, because the real deal is politics is all about the numbers. It's about the budgets. It's about allocation of those dollars, the people that we touch. It's about the numbers in terms of registered voters. And this is another thing that we as a party have to focus on, is getting more people to register to vote on the Republican Party. Because the bottom line is, as Prince spoke, that it comes down to getting those 1,000 votes, 1,000 signatures.
Sure.
And if you have to go to the Northeast, Roxborough, and South Philadelphia and count on those parts of the city every time, it's not going to be good. And when clearly you have people who are currently part of the Democratic Party who are dissatisfied with what the party is doing, we have those as potential people who could come over to the Republican side. And in actuality, a lot of Democratic people are Republican in thought.
Oh, I agree.
and action.
I absolutely agree.
So
with
we
that.
just need to convince them and say, hey, guess what? It's okay for you to be a Republican and be a person of color, to be a woman, to be whoever you are, including the LGBTQ community. We don't care. We just need people who think and believe
Sure.
like we do in a way that we're moving forward to take care of the constituents, particularly of this city. One of the biggest problems we have as Philadelphia Republicans is that when you ask anyone, including Democrats, about the Philadelphia Republican Party, there's not much to compare it to other than national politics. And we have our own identity here in Philadelphia, and that's where we're re-strategizing as a party to deal with those issues that are near and dear to people's heart, that are already there, but that becomes a part of our existing strategy in terms of moving forward.
And that's how the creation and the formation of the North Philly GOP came about. Okay, we as African American ward leaders, okay, we recognize our voice, okay, is not being heard. It was not being heard. So what we decided to do was formulate us together, come together, and create a voting power, a voting block power.
What are the wards, real quick? What are the wards? Do you have it nailed down? And
You got
Yes.
15, you got 7, you got 19, you got 37, you got 11, 16, 20, 13,
14 is me.
14.
Yeah.
How many is that right there so far?
that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
No, it's
Oh,
more.
9. Yeah.
No, it's
It's
more than
11
that.
together.
28,
Yeah.
32, 29.
because it's $11.
And
So
can
they're
we-
okay.
can-
So they're actually. I didn't
There's
mean to put you on the
11
spot. I
ward
thought.
leaders.
I thought it
Yes,
was.
that's
I thought it was gonna be like 5 or 6.
No, it's
Can-
11 total.
Can we also add, Cornell, and you may know this as well, those districts that you named, just give a little bit of territorial idea. For example, my Ward 11 goes from Broad and Lehigh to Broad and Venango, and then comes on the west side all the way down to Fox and Hunting Park. So we're talking about North Philadelphia in a significant area when you're talking about all of those
Sure.
wards that you're talking about.
Well, when you talk about the ward, if you look at those wards, if you just look at a map of Philadelphia,
Right,
the center of Philadelphia is North Philly.
right,
So you actually we're the heart of the city. Sure.
right.
Well, it's definitely Spring Gardens, the southern boundary, because I know
Yes.
I am the ward leader of the 15th ward, so it's not
Yes.
only African American
Right.
ward leaders.
Yes.
And I know 14. No, you're 13.
Yes.
13.
I'm 14.
They're
You're
14,
right.
14,
I'm
14.
I'm your neighbor.
So 14
Yes, I'm
is
your
also.
neighbor.
I think your southern boundary is also
Yes.
Spring Garden.
This is why you need endorsements, because you need other folks in the Northeast and Roxborough to buy in. You just can't have everybody in the race, because the opportunity for a minority to get a piece of the pie or to get even in the race and get the votes will never happen if it wasn't from an endorsement. And the endorsement has to support the endorsed candidate.
Right.
Because what happens is that this idea of the ward sitting dormant for all this time was a strategy. Because look at what had gotten built inside of that Huntington Park area when Tasty Cake shut down, when Bud had disappeared. The Republicans didn't have a voice at all. Not that they didn't have a voice at the table. The ones who live in the geographical area didn't have a voice. And so now this is the first time since we started meeting together that pretty much all of the wards have a ward leader.
And
There were some that did not have a ward leader, especially the one with the president of city council.
Yeah.
No one ever ran against them. And once again, this is a chairman situation. So when you follow protocol inside of this party right here, we defer to the chairman. It's supposed to come from the top down. It hadn't come that way, hadn't been diversified that way. And so now it's an aggressive approach to get back Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Because we've lost so much from Temple, putting a
Yes.
stadium in the center of what you call the heart of North Philadelphia. That stadium couldn't have been put anywhere else. But the way they did it, with having former Mayor John Street working at the school, having him as a mentor to Darrell Clark, having those two in cahoots, talking about they're going to have meeting with the churches in the community that never had happened. This, the people have been displeased. The homeowners are now at a disadvantage right now because they got a stadium and bright lights whether they like it or not. You see, and we still don't know what's in the center of Broad Street that goes up 50 feet in the air, all these silver poles, which we knew they needed to put them there in order to get away with the infrastructure that ties into the electricity to the stadium. And so this is why you have to have Republican balance when you get in those meetings with those Mary Mason grandmoms who's saying, I can respect that you recognize my neighborhood has fallen. Now, how could you help me? And I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, but you're a Republican, I'll vote for you because you have a clue that my neighborhood has fallen. And what's your name? Who are you? And they become dedicated to that.
But
I was gonna say, not to get too off. So I don't think the stadium's going to Temple, and I will tell you that I don't think it's going to go there. And he's a friend of mine. I have friends who are Democrats and Republicans, but Council President Clark, I don't think he's going to allow that to go there.
We're going to bet some coffee on that.
I
Drew and I got to
would.
bet on that.
No.
We've been a Republican.
Yeah,
It's
going there.
It's going there.
I'm gonna tell you why it's going there.
Well, let's get something out the deal, though.
No, yeah, and that's the thing.
What we gonna do? We gonna bet some coffee or what?
I've been to these meetings, and I sit there and listen. My thing, everybody is against this stadium, but the one thing you can get from this stadium that you can't get from apartment buildings, you can get a scholarship for the kids in this community. You talking about raising your taxes? You can get them to say, hey, we're going to grandfather anybody in this area around this Temple Stadium. Your taxes are grandfathered, and we're going to a certain amount of money just in case it go up.
You
to
know, I want
help
to stop
pay
you
for
there.
them.
It would be nice if we had the type of city council person in place to do that. Like
No,
if I had
but-
won my
but
seat.
that if you ask
but
for it.
no, let's
You
be
just
for
took
real.
down 2
We are
high-rises
talking about we are talking about Daryl Clark, who is
Listen,
the
I
city
know.
council person, who is the pay-to-play master.
But I'm talking about the leaders, the
All right?
activists.
This is the
That's against it too.
no.
But at the end, that get the
At
envelope
the
and say,
end-
"Oh, we tried."
We know this is how you see the tape.
You know how the actors
This
is
is
get-
what happens. No, because for instance, because of the groundwork that I did,
Yeah.
okay, with stadium stompers, all right, and we did the groundwork, stadium stompers, got these churches involved. Daryl Clark that met with all the churches and gave all the churches money and stuff and the contract. So guess
What I
what?
just
It
say?
ain't no more.
What I just
Okay,
say?
so this is why I said it'd be different under the scenario
I just said that.
you were saying, and get a community benefit agreement, and we make sure
50% of
everything
the
lined
jobs
up
go to
and all the
community.
jobs. And I understand what you're saying, but unfortunately, the players that we got in set and the
deal already happened.
gatekeepers, let me call them what they are. They are gatekeepers of oppression.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
because that's what they are. They are oppressing our community,
Yes, they are.
and they are maintaining it, and they are the gatekeepers of it. This is why Daryl Clark had this thing where he wanted to annihilate me. That's what he told people.
You want
All
zero.
right, so
Oh,
we're
I said
gonna
I'm
we're gonna
sorry.
take on that note. I think we opened up a can of worms. We're gonna take a quick break.
You know, y'all opened up a can of worms.
Hey. No, but
I came out in the 11th grade.
Being prepared is a part of who you are. But it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
If you love them enough to suck the snot out of their nose at 4 a.m., then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Welcome back. You're listening to Usula Radio. My name is Drew Murray, and you are listening to the Republican Zone. So we got off on a tangent there. We're not going to talk anymore about Temple University, the number one. It's also my alma mater, so we can't talk badly about the Owls. So we got Sheila. We might have to turn Sheila's microphone off.
No, it's okay. It's
She-
not simple. I got an issue.
I
with.
know it's my friend Council President Clark.
You're
We're gonna
supposed to
talk
be
about
frank.
good positive things.
All right.
I like the council president, but
Oh, well,
that'll be
somebody has
Sheila. I'll
to.
have to
His mama like
I'll
him
have to
too.
bring you back.
Look, they say you got a face that only mothers can love.
So let's get back to kind of Republican. I want to get into, how do we get those 2 seats back? How do we get more than 2 seats? And I think the way to do that is we got to grow the party. And I think and Leonard kind of touched on it. Where can we grow the party? And it's an untouched area. It's an untouched community. It's the African American community.
The heart.
And
That's
the
it.
heart of Philly.
And we got to talk about it because at the end of the day, the African American community is the most disenfranchised community in the city. Okay, we are seen as a commodity. Okay, instead of being seen as the leaders that we are. Okay, they see us for how they can use us, how they can use us to continue putting us in failing schools, okay, or put us in the prison system.
Well, I think that there is when you look at the party as a whole, you have a bunch of influential and affluent people. You have doctors, you have judges, you have folks that live in overbooked farms, you have folks that live in places, and it's going to take someone galvanizing them. So you can't just reserve yourself to the Northeast.
Right.
You're going to have to come down, and you have to get those folks engaged, because we're not going to fix poverty in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a profitable venture, and it still is.
Exactly.
That's not what you're looking for. What you're looking for is a piece of the pie in order to give a person opportunity. So you can stay over here, or you can go here. You can go to the school, or you can go to Chestnut Hill School in Chestnut Hill. So we need to better prepare ourselves. And the United Republican Club in Germantown. So there's a house that will allow you to have fundraisers. There's a house that will do the recruiting. There's a house where folks can come and have some representation. And that's because if Drew goes back out there, we don't need Drew. It shouldn't be as hard for him to go throughout the city without him being able to go to a corner store that a Republican is familiar with, but he has a relationship with. Yeah. And economically, the money needs to be a fundraising, participatory process. So he doesn't lose $50,000 and someone asks him to get out the race and don't have a strategic plan for him. And so this is what we have to. It's a strategy to this right here. It's not an aggressive, emotional. You're gonna just take it back. Everything that happened in Brewerytown, everything that happened on 3rd and Girard, there was a strategy to it. There was a backroom conversation. There was a deal done, and they got it done. The problem is that the people of the city was not intricately involved in that process. And all we asking is that you give the jobs, give the opportunities, don't run them through a third-party system, whether i.e. a union or a pre-apprentice program, and then by the time they get up to speed, the job is gone.
Right. Well, I didn't spend $50,000 out of my own pocket. I guess I should say that.
Well, I gave you $500, so I need that back.
You did.
I mean, I wrote it off, but I need that back. I have faith in you.
And I am interested. When I was on the campaign trail, when I was running at large, I went all over the city. And when you go to these events, they were everywhere. And you could pretty much, and it was the primary. And most of these events, 80% of the people are in the audience, probably 90% of the people are Democrats, but I went anyway, and oftentimes I was, and I'm not. This is not disparaging to anybody who I was running against because I lost. So I was many times the only Republican in the room. So I will tell you, I know I personally went to every community. I went to Northeast Philadelphia, North Philadelphia, Center City, Southwest, West. So I was in every single community. I'm not sure if you saw other candidates coming to those. To the communities all over the city. Of course, I think I was the best one, so I went to more than anyone else.
But
I want to share.
Leonard,
I just want to say, following up on Drew's point, we can't be afraid to go outside of our safety zones. The safety zones are the Northeast, Roxborough, and South Philadelphia, because that's where the city's largest Republican registered populations are. If we want to grow this party, and that's the potential for additional registered Republican voters, we have to do it in the Southwest Philadelphia areas. We have to do it in the West Philadelphia areas. And we absolutely have to do it in North Philadelphia. No one wins races in this city, significant races, without the black and brown vote. We have to go into all of these communities that typically are not communities. They may be 90% registered Democrats. But I am telling you that there are Democrats in those areas who are looking for viable solutions and alternatives to the current status quo. When we talk about what the things that are going on in this city, Democrats have to own that for the last 70 years.
Exactly.
They've been in the power structure in City Hall for 70 years. So when we go back from then until now, the Republican Party cannot take ownership of what currently exists because it's been Democrats who've been in control of that. That is why we need a larger Republican group at the table.
You don't need to go 70 years. You need to go this past year. There was 118 kids shot. 118 kids shot.
Right.
With an open air drug market, which was created by the mayor,
right,
who ran pretty much unopposed. And so you have the mayor and you have the council president. And what they put their hands on to maneuver and manipulate. What my issue is as Republicans, since we are on top of our game, we're not asking about the economics. We're not challenging the money in any aspect, and that's our biggest problem right there. Let's look at the
accountability.
Dollars. Where did the money go?
Exactly.
And when you say Southwest, 52nd and King Cessna now, you can walk dogs and watch movies in the park. Unlike 20 years ago, you had 25 illusions on the ground, and you had people walking like zombies up and down that street. So you can't articulate to me about how to solve poverty if in the Republican Party we've always been a quality of life. So do you want the neighborhood to be nice, or do you want to tell me about the poverty that used to be there? If you don't want to tell me about the poverty that used to be there, then we need to lock arms with those people who've just made this neighborhood very nice.
Right.
So we can economically benefit, so we can change those other people to come around, opposed to watching them have their stuff on the sidewalk because they just been evicted by a landlord who is a Ukraine or a different situation. So
when we talk about quality of life issues, we're talking about, take this for example, we have more abandoned houses in this city than we have homeless people. Think about that. There are more properties in this city that are just sitting there vacant and empty. We have to give an account for the taxpayer dollars. We have cigarette tax. We have soda tax.
And you open that Pandora box, and then when a developer, like one of Drew's friends, come in, and they go down there and get tax credits, and they begin to take up 3rd Street or 13th Street, then you complain about your neighborhood being gentrified. But you just acknowledge that these abandoned houses in the neighborhood something needs to be done.
For the sake of the city.
So
we have private developers who are coming.
As the Republican group, need to be able to commandeer some of those places, redesign those neighborhoods, and then take those people, get them an income. Let's check to make sure they have an income, because there's a number of reasons why a person would live on the street. And so if you don't handle all those things, then are you putting a quality person in your home, or who are you putting in your home?
Well, we're talking about dealing with individuals who have those barriers to better qualities of life and dealing with them in a holistic way. What I'm suggesting is that we take taxpayer dollars and stop talking about these safe injection sites. It makes absolutely no sense to take a person who has a drug addiction and give them a place to go and use more drugs. We're talking about a holistic approach.
But that's not
of dealing with
dollars. That's private.
It will become that way, believe me, because how are these things going to be paid for? I think what's going to happen is it's going to become the insurance plans that are going to pay for.
That's what they did. So they already did
it. Insurance plan.
It's our tax dollars that pay for the health insurance.
The health insurance, that's what I'm saying.
It's our tax dollars that pay for health insurance,
so
but they already sat there and made
it's
sure
coming
that
from the city and it's coming from the federal government.
Medical insurance could cover for addictions now. They already did that.
You're talking
so
about
when they're going to privatize, they're going to create these safe injection sites, so that way all the Medicare and Medicaid money can go into these safe injection sites.
We don't hear the chairman of our party speaking against the mayor's ability to do that. We don't hear the chairman of our party talking. We had the FOP guy go to Washington to meet with the president. So the chair of the party need to go to Washington and meet with the president and speak towards this right here. There's no balance, is what I'm saying.
Well, I think you'll hear Martina talk to the mayor about safe injection sites, sanctuary cities, and the soda tax. So, but you've touched it. So Dr. Rich.
Can I, because you say the 3 S's. That's not the problem for a black neighborhood.
You know who termed the 3 S's, Carnell? That was me. That was me during my primer, and everyone stole it from me. I hear everyone saying the 3 S's. I said that on my first speech.
Tell me what an African-American neighborhood look like, and tell me where there is one.
What you mean?
You keep saying that ain't the issue for...
The 3 S's. The soda taxes, the safe injection houses.
But what I'm saying is that for African-American, for us...
to me, it's the killing, the crime rate, the school, the education.
And we talked about we did touch on, and Dr. Prince touched on a little bit, and I want to talk about it because you talked a little bit about gentrification and you talked about tax abatement. You kind of touched on them. And my belief, I think gentrification is a good thing because it makes communities safer. Because what happens in a gentrified neighborhood? We talked about, Leonard talked about, abandoned houses, abandoned parcels. Gentrification will get rid of those empty parcels, those abandoned houses. It brings businesses to communities, but the problem is there is the bad part of gentrification, and that's when people get pushed out of their communities. So how, in my mind, it's not stopping. I'm a fan of the tax abatement. I think it's great. I think the tax abatement can get rid of a lot of those empty parcels and a lot of those abandoned buildings, and the tax abatement can help that, especially in underserved communities. But how do we stop gentrification, the bad points of gentrification,
Well,
right?
that's the problem. Whereas, just like you said, it was the tax abatements for the developers and the people to come in, but there's no economic or no money or no funding for the people that's living there that try to make it better. So, for instance, for 15 years, I've been living in North Philly projects, okay, at 10th and Master. 15 years of development, public housing development, okay, all right. Okay, for 15 years I've been living there. For 15 years, City Council Clark has been my city councilman. For 15 years, I've been jumping up and down, screaming, shouting, everything I need to do, try to get some help. Not for 15 years, no money came through to sit there and help anything. But just 2 blocks over from where I live at, okay, it is bright lights and everything. Boys is getting killed on my corner every summer. Every summer, a young man. This summer, a man that me and Prince got off the streets. Worked with us this summer. Got him a job at Foreman Mills. 2 weeks. Only been working at Foreman Mills 2 weeks. Got killed on his steps with 15 bullet shots on his step. The problem I have with councilmen and anybody, okay, that has been gatekeepers of this oppression that's going on in the poor African American community that they claiming that they help, they're not doing it. They're giving the money to the developers, everybody else come in, but the people that's there on the ground doing the work, been there for 15 years, helping the neighbors out, helping sit there, these poor mothers, helping them to find food when they hungry. The money ain't there for us to help us. No, they don't think we know what is.
You always think us to break.
I know.
All right, we're gonna take with that, everyone take a deep breath, and we're gonna take a 2-minute break.
The truth is said that gentrification.
Sometimes the things we do or say can make others feel hurt, excluded, or isolated. Everything you say and do creates an impact.
How am I supposed to save the whole world?
You can't think about saving the world. You have to think about saving one person.
Because of you, someone's entire life can change. You don't have to be a superhero to have a positive impact.
Friends?
Friends.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
Welcome back. You're listening to Usula Radio. My name is Drew Murray, and I am the host of the Republican Zone. So we are back. We have about 10 minutes left. Sheila, you're not allowed to talk about Council President Clark anymore because you get too heated. Every time you say Council President Clark's name, I see you get heated. So we're gonna take a break from Council President Clark. But we're going to talk about gentrification because as soon as we went to break, everyone looked at me like, what do you mean, Drew? You can't. Dr. Prince said, did I really hear Drew say gentrification is a good thing? I said, you can disagree with me, Dr. Prince, but let me finish my point first. Gentrification is a good thing because typically in gentrified neighborhoods, crime goes down. Empty parcels are filled. But the bad part of gentrification is that people are pushed out of the communities. And we can't have that. Because I always tell people, part of what makes these neighborhoods great are the people who live there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And there are programs to help kind of negate some of the, to minimize gentrification, but I don't think there's enough. There is the Loop program, which is a long-term owner occupancy program where it's a long. Sheila's laughing. Before I even finished, I saw Sheila. She's like, I'm trying not to laugh, but I'm not. But you need to qualify for that. And then there's programs like there's the freeze.
Qualification process.
There's the freeze
Lord
program.
knows.
Which is for senior citizens. It's a senior citizen freeze program. But more needs to be done to stop the negative effects of gentrified neighborhoods. And one of the ideas that I had during my campaign was that, number one, the market should determine the value of homes. The OPA, the Office of Property Adjustment, has proven that they cannot determine the actual value of parcels, the actual value of homes. They've used the tax abated houses within the neighborhood to use as comps for evaluating the values of homes, which they're not supposed to do. It's literally within the legislation that they're not supposed to use that tax abated house until it's out of abatement. So I believe the market should determine the value, and then once the market determines the value, all across the city, not just in underserved communities, all across the city, your tax should be locked in with a certain increase that is maxed out. For example, your taxes should only go up 2 to 3% a year once you buy that parcel, and it should be tied to not cost of living but cost of schools. And the reason for that is because real estate taxes go to schools, and we got to make sure we have enough funding for our schools. So if this was done, and I didn't invent it, California did it, but the problem with California is it was tied to a cost of living adjustment, COLA, and not what I call COSA, cost of school adjustment. So the cost of schools went up quicker than the cost of living, so they started to underfund their schools. So that's a way, and that's what I say gentrification is a good thing because it improves communities, crime decrease. And I'm saying just historically,
So
crime goes down. Yes, Dr. Prince, I know he's ready now. Okay.
If a person on Cotman Avenue get caught with 10 bricks of cocaine in his house and there's a raid and we lock that person up, do we call Cotman Avenue a high crime neighborhood? No. The Catholic Church down the street, we never identify that house as a high crime neighborhood. And if you Google, you can take two years ago, that's what happened. But if a person get caught with that same 10 keys of cocaine, 1 key of cocaine, half a brick of cocaine on Allegheny Avenue. Ounce of weed, right, on Allegheny Avenue, you then now label that house as a high crime neighborhood. And once you label it as a high crime neighborhood, it opens that Pandora box for folks to come in, like yourself, and say, oh, Broad and Allegheny going all the way back to 13th Street or going all the way back to 15th Street or 16th Street, that's a high crime neighborhood. So we need to de-gentrify that. And if gentrification is not a problem, then make everybody at the same level. So you have a college degree, I have a college degree, you make $100 a year, I make $200 a year. So we pretty much at almost the same level. But if a person is in poverty and you know they're in poverty, and then we're coming through that neighborhood, then you just taken a neighborhood that they have been accustomed to. It's like these birds in the city. You ever see us tear down a building and the birds go back to where they have been for a period of time? They aren't used to the relocation. They aren't used to that building being there. So that's how people are.
I want to go back to you making $200 a year. 'Cause if you're making $200 a year, I'm definitely asking you for something for my next campaign. There you go. I got them you always got to fundraise.
Gentrification do not lower crime.
Gentrified
neighborhoods, my neighborhood
the crime decreases historically.
Brewerytown found that out.
That's because the reason why
it's gentrified. The crime rate did not
it's
go
not
down.
going to lower crime is because you haven't dealt with the people who are in those neighborhoods.
Yep.
So you can put up a beautiful building or a beautiful apartment complex,
Exactly.
but until you deal holistically with people who are impoverished through workforce development, through educational opportunities, you're still going to have that element of crime. But by the renewing of those buildings and remodeling of those buildings,
You know, I always sat there and said, why people surprised they got robbed when you put a condo in North Philly? You put a condo in North Philly. That's
Nobody's
one block.
asking me if I want to take my tax dollars and invest in that stuff. So
That's the problem.
If you tell me a 45-year-old man and you send him to a GED program during the daytime when he could be working. And then you get him go to a GED program at night while he's working during the daytime, then that's a different perspective. But if you're telling me that you're going to give him free tokens and a trans pass and he's going to anger management class and he is still not working and you're asking him, I should have a right to tell you no. You can't use my tax dollars to do that.
Yep.
That's where I
agree.
talked about the accountability of the taxpayers' dollars. For example, I remember some years ago when they asked a question about the cigarette tax and soda tax going to the educational system. They put that as a ballot question. Once that money started coming in, City Council then moved that money to the city's general budget fund. It's not going to where it was.
Those are bully taxes. That's all it is. Cheaper to get a 20-ounce can of Old English 800 for $1, legitimate dollar in this city, than it is to buy a 16-ounce can soda. Those are bully taxes. They only benefit the proprietors who own those stores, and the mayor is a runaway train. And the Republican Party has let them get away with that. And this is why you have the North Philly Republican Party. And this is why you have other entities that are growing and developing. So we can give a guy like Drew a fair opportunity when he runs, and not this, all these guys pop up. They pop up because they got the money. Center City Q's. You know, you got everybody who has the money who pop up. And then now Drew, we got to try to sell him when we shouldn't have to, because he's at the table talking about these issues with his money.
Right.
So just real quick, because I promised Dr. Prince we would talk about, since today is going to be an historic vote in the House, we'd spend just a couple minutes on the impeachment, which is it's pretty much guaranteed that President Trump will be impeached, and that it will go to the Senate, and whether or not he is removed is very unlikely. But, you know, what does everyone think about the impeachment? And we only have 2 minutes, so you got to go quick.
I almost thought he was African American. The Pfizer warrant didn't have no merits to it. They charge you on the street corner with no evidence. They lock you up. They send you to court. They don't let you bring your witness in there. You know, take the deal, or you're going to suffer the consequences. And this is what they've been telling him: take the deal, or you're going to suffer the consequences. And if we would not be in this quandary or this predicament if the Republicans had came on board from day one to support him. They had just as much culpability in taking him down or going after him, siding with the Democrats. Didn't think that he would become president, let alone be able to do all the deals that he's done and redo NAFTA and those other deals that were bad for you.
And lower unemployment to historic levels, and especially in the African American community.
Especially, and one thing, my point of the impeachment is a waste of taxpayer dollars. Okay, I'm old school, so what I believe is the Democrat Party should have took that fight to the streets. If you ain't want him to win, vote him out.
But he got voted in.
But he got voted in. And then y'all doing this on the election year, too. Okay? So which shows me how weak the Democrat Party is and how they know they weak. Because if y'all was strength, y'all wouldn't go the impeachment route. Y'all wouldn't try. They don't.
Who's the candidate?
They ain't got a candidate. They can't even sit there and come together behind a candidate.
When we talk about the impeachment process, they know they cannot beat this president at the polls.
Yeah.
And so to stigmatize him with being an impeached president is what the goal is here.
But Bill Clinton was an impeached president too.
I'd like to give a shout out to Jeff Van Drew, who is a local Democrat in New Jersey, who is going to be the only local Democrat that's going to vote against impeachment.
Yes, and
as a result of that, as a result of that, he's going to have to suffer the consequences. But I wanted to give a shout out to him for doing the right thing. We have a president that has the lowest unemployment. A booming economy. Who can run against him on those issues? And
so this is why
that's that.
Our in the last closing out, our dear President Trump, we would like to invite you to come to Philadelphia and sit with the African American people, Republican Party of Philadelphia, because we have your back. We recognize a sham when a sham is. We've been hoodwinked and bamboozled, okay, and we recognize what they're trying to do to you. Come with us and have a fight.
All right. Well, thank you guys all. Thank you, my friends, Leonard, Carnell, Sheila, and my new friend, Dr. Prince. Even though I like gentrification, I hope we're still friends. So, thank you for listening to Ursula Radio.
Yes.
So when's our next show?